Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like
RDC meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Could we do the roll call? Here.
Commissioner Ambler?
Here.
Commissioner Josiak?
Here.
Commissioner Lett?
Here.
Commissioner Munt? Absent. Commissioner Vasquez?
Here.
All right. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from our December 19th meeting? Are there any motions on that?
I move to approve the notes from the December 19th meeting. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We move to the claims. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at the claims? Are there any questions or a motion?
Motion to approve?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We get to our staff reports. Bill, did you have anything to say for this part, or? Yeah.
All right, yeah, I have a few items I could there. I think our contractors laid it on. I'm going to bring it up now. We have submitted for the board's consideration, and hopefully approval, the 2025 consulting contract and buyer agency agreements for Macaulay Bennett. I failed to get it into last month's meeting, so we are submitting to this meeting. I did submit it to Attorney Scott for, oh, sorry, I had sent it earlier for the attorneys to review. I don't know if he's got a review done. If you can get that passed tonight, I would appreciate it. That has been reviewed.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion. Does anyone have a second? Is everyone paying attention to what it was?
A second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Otherwise, none of this other stuff would make sense. Information for, to put in your minutes, the money that was allocated last month for the Burns Harbor Fish Company survey is not going to be used, so that money is void at this point. I do have a request for the Route 249, 10.2 acres, 249 and US Steel Road. If we can get that property appraised, if you can allocate $3,600 for the appraisals of those two parcels. We can ask for a board for motion on that.
Motion to allocate those funds for that appraisal?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And then my last item would be, we need to execute an addendum on the 6051, 6071 Central Avenue contract purchase agreement, adding Attorney McClure to the contract so that the attorney from the other side can discuss with him. I will get that contract written up, or the addendum written up, and over to the mayor tomorrow, if you can authorize for him to sign it.
I move that we approve for Attorney McClure to be included on the contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Attorney McClure, is there an issue that we haven't voted on you technically yet, or? No worries. Absolutely.
That is all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowditch?
So, under, for me, staff reports will be taken under items number 7 and 8 individually, as far as reporting events. One issue to bring your attention.
We need to get a microphone that I can control with the remote. It'll just
Yeah,
slide from one
exactly.
side to the
I
other.
apologize.
Yeah.
So one issue to bring to your attention at this point is item number 8.6, fiscal year 2025 Redevelopment Commission budget presentation. I have spoken with the commission members and would ask that that item number be tabled and rescheduled for a special meeting to be scheduled for Monday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. here in the council chambers, meeting chambers. And then subsequently, upon assumed approval, the city's common council meets on the 4th, so it can be sent right over to the council at that time.
If I could ask, I know that we have the Plan Commission meeting on the 3rd. Can that be done schedule-wise in a way that doesn't overlap?
Checked with Sonia, yes. That's at 6:30. Right.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that'll be the
Right.
same. I gotcha. I know how long,
Yeah, we can meet somewhere else if necessary, but I don't
Sure.
think it would take more than 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
I think it might have to, if it's a meeting, then I think we need to have it recorded, because we are a fiscal body, unless there's attorney.
Is it an executive session, or is it a?
No, regular meeting.
Okay.
It would be a special meeting, not a regular meeting. Right. A special regular meeting. Yes. Yes. So, other than that, I would turn over to new business at this time.
Sure. So
Or
we
old
have the,
business. Sorry. old
oh, no
business.
problem, yeah. So-
Under 7.1, which goes to me, as far as the residential development program development areas, or what are currently known as home TIF, tax increment financing, I did have a meeting with the mayor and the city administration. There are a total of 5 areas that are under consideration for a residential development home program. I've been asked to prepare those programs specific to Bower Farms Sandy Trails, which I have finally received all the information on the project from the developer and have discussed it with them. They've provided all the information we needed. The other was a Lennar development, and then there were 2 other subdivision developments. I have spoken with Dina in the planning department. She's provided me all the subdivision information that's been approved or under consideration. So the intent is to have the residential development home program presentations for you at your February meeting on February 20th. At the March 20th meeting, a redevelopment project plan's presented, because you have to have a redevelopment or an economic development plan that's associated with the home tax increment financing allocation areas, or home TIFs. And then at the March 20th meeting, that would be an opportunity for a public meeting with the property owners, and those property owners that are impacted, typically 300 feet from the boundaries. We'll schedule that. Special meeting, only because there is a 30-day public meeting notice to have a second public meeting, as well as inviting to that meeting would be the Portage Township Assessor. At that point, and upon that public meeting and discussion, the Redevelopment Commission could undertake a declaratory resolution for each one of the 5 areas. And then it rolls into an approval process similar to any allocation area or official plan process. In May, it would go before the Plan Commission for compliance with the official plans, and that would be by resolution and written order. At the June 3rd meeting of the City Council, they would approve the Plan Commission's action as an advisory commission to the City Council. And then on the 19th of June, which would be your regular meeting, assuming everything went as expected, the Redevelopment Commission would have a confirming resolution for each one of the residential development housing program areas as an allocation area provision. The intent is to use the dollars for public safety purposes in the city. So an allocation fund would be established for each, and then used for public safety, whether police or fire or other ambulatory public safety equipment or services. So that's the schedule that the mayor had asked me to put together and present as far as, and the mayor's request was to have everything, if possible, to have everything done by June, so.
And I appreciate the speed and the seriousness of it, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep, oh, you're welcome. So if there's any questions on the programs, I will state, full disclosure, that Attorney McClure and I have gone through this similar process with the Porter County Redevelopment Commission, so we are both on the same page in understanding what needs to occur. So I will work closely with the attorney on this.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
All 5 of these plots of land or subdivisions, they've all been approved already, correct?
Not all.
Not
So
all.
some have, but then some are zoned in such a way that they already have the permission to build there. And so if that's the case, we want to make sure that we are capturing the allocation that we can put towards public safety.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Are these locations close together, or are they scattered throughout our city?
They are scattered in the south and to the south and southeast of the city's jurisdiction.
3 of them are relatively close together in the area between Route 6 and 700 on the southwest side of town. 1 is further down between 6 and 700, more on the southeast side. And then 1 is the area between Lute Road and Menards.
And I can get a map over to the Redevelopment Commission
I was
members.
just going to ask at
Yeah,
any
I
point.
can get a map over to you
We could do that, okay.
of
thank
those
you.
areas. Mhm. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. So that gets us to new business. We have the election of officers. So we need a president.
Make a motion for Mayor Bonta to be president.
I will second that.
Well, thank you. I will definitely accept. Yeah. So we have a motion. Oh, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We need a vice president.
Make a motion for Councilperson Ambler to be vice president.
I second that.
Penny, do you accept?
I accept.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then we need a secretary.
I will make a motion to have Greg Locke be our secretary.
Actually, that would be, well, nothing against Greg, but that's normally Sonia. Isn't that her role, or is that something different? Oh, you are the, okay. I gotcha, and I apologize. Just want to make sure we had that right. Greg's brief pause gave me a pause, so, no, I'm very cool with it being Greg, absolutely.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
I'd also like to make a notation that I serve as the liaison for the Portage Township Schools, so I am not a voting member.
You're not like abstaining out of like, frustration or something. I appreciate you making that clear, yeah. All right, so that gets us to the appointments of consultants and staff. So first, we have the appointment of an attorney.
Make a motion for Scott McClure to be our attorney.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, that gets us to financial advisor.
Motion for Dan Bowditch to be our financial advisor.
Actually, He's our director, so is that Carl? Yeah.
I withdraw that motion. I'll make a motion for Sender and Dalton to be our financial advisor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carl was going to be like, the one time I don't count. No. So that gets us to our real estate agent, or broker.
That would be Mr. Rathjen, right?
Consultant.
Thank you. I make a motion for Bill Rathjen to be our financial, or our
No,
real
not
estate,
financial. You don't
real
want me doing
estate
that.
advisor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Dan, next time we'll have you have like some cue cards, like you can hold them up like a TV show. And now we have our recording secretary, not to be confused with board secretary, but recording secretary. Darn it, I was trying to get away from trying to skip. Let's go with director first.
I will make a motion that Dan Bowditch be our director.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second and a third. I'm excited about you too, Dan. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now we've got a recording secretary. But who could it be?
I will make a motion for Sonia to be our recording secretary.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That gets us to 8.3. Bill, did we do that
We
already?
We did it
Yeah.
earlier, sorry.
I'm just messing up so much today. I want to make sure that I didn't skip you. That gets us to discussion with Tom Cherry on amendment number 1 for Central Avenue over the Willow Creek reconstruction project contract with American Structure Point. Actually, I don't see, Tom Cherry is listed, but I don't believe he's our person here. Oh, hello. Sandy's got it.
Actually, yeah, Tom wasn't feeling well, so he wanted to cut out early today, or a bit early. But we also have our consultant here who can explain the purpose, the reason for the amendment.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chris Murphy with American Structure Point. Amendment 1 to our Construction Inspection Services Agreement is being presented to you today for consideration for approval. And this results directly to the extra time necessary for construction inspection related to the unsuitable soils situation we had at the bridge replacement site that resulted in approximately $1.5 million, give or take, of additional work to build that load transfer platform to address the unsuitable soils problem. And that time involved by that additional construction inspection was not considered in the original contract, as we didn't know we would have this extra work item come up during construction. So this is an amendment to provide for that additional time necessary for the additional inspection. I do want to note that we have worked with the NERC, Federal Funding Office, and they have agreed to fund 80% of this additional construction inspection time for the project with federal funds. So that the local match responsibility would be 20% of the value of the additional construction inspection time. And I can answer any questions that you might have with regard to it.
My question is, when your company placed the first bid and we accepted it, what was that amount?
That amount was approximately $225,000.
$233,673.
Approximately. Yeah.
And how much has it actually cost the city of Portage?
That original contract was 80% funded with federal funds, so 20% of that value would be the cost to the city of Portage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And these additional funds can be clawed back with the claim that the city will be making?
You're talking about the 20% side of that?
The 20% value of this amendment would not be eligible for that clawback through any claim process, as NDOT and Federal Highway have determined that this additional work on the project is eligible for federal funding at 80% because it was work that would have been part of the project if we had known we needed this work when we put together the original construction plans for the project. And that makes it eligible for 80% federal funding, which means it's eligible for the 20% local match. The value of work that potentially could be part of a claim would be work that NDOT and Federal Highway determine is not eligible for federal funding because it's redo work for work that federal funds have already paid for, or other work that would not be eligible for federal funding through the normal process if we had known we had to do this work when we originally did the project. So I know that's kind of a complicated explanation. There will be some of that work that would be eligible for a claim, but it will not be part of this work that's included by this amendment because it is eligible for 80% reimbursement from federal funds.
Attorney McClure, I think that you did a very good job answering the question, but do you think you could maybe translate that just a little bit in your Scott McClure kind of way? I guess the question is about the clawback compared to, yeah.
So if you, I think the way to look at it is that if originally when this project was conceived, if the known factor at that time would have been these soils need to be remediated in this way, which we found out later, but assume the normal course would have happened, that would have been determined, that would have been designed, that would have been part of the cost, that would, the construction review would have been part of that original cost. So what's happening is additional work has been identified, and the way the process looks at it is if this would have been known from the beginning, it would have been part of the project. That's why it's eligible for the 80%. And then that's why everything ticks up that way. That makes sense?
Followed that, oh, I'm sorry, I was going to ask, is it to say that financially speaking, it makes the clawback moot? Or is there still money that we're going to need to pursue at the end based on what the subcontractor did?
Potentially a claim at the end. I would suggest that this, because it would have been in the normal course of the construction, may not be as potent of a claim because this should have been part of the original cost. This isn't a mistake, and we shouldn't have ever had to do this. This was a soil issue, and we were always going to have to do this. We just didn't know it at the time. Does that help?
So what was the original claim? What's the additional expense?
Construction inspection, correct?
Correct.
It's the difference between 421,000, give or take, and 233,000, give or take. But that's directly related to the additional size of work and the dollar amount associated with that work being added to the project.
And then federal funds will pay 80% of that additional amount.
Correct.
That is a good thing, because that's much better than us having to pay the full cost of the additional amount and then have to fight back later, at least over that part too. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
I'm not saying I'm happy about it. I'm just saying that, federal 80% is better than us doing 100%, given the circumstances.
About a $1.5 million change order.
Correct.
That would have presumably always been a part of the project. And because that was always really part of the project, this additional cost of construction supervision was really always part of the project. We're just getting to it now.
So we're looking at like around $30-something thousand. Is,
37.5. 37.5.
Our portion is 37,500.
An additional to,
Of this amendment, right.
yeah, with this amendment. Thank you.
So if we move it for the construction management up to the 421, right? Of that 421, there's going to be a portion that would be part of the claim?
Potentially. But that's not a straight line. And it's, the reason is because this should have been part of the cost to begin with.
Has Structure Point put any hours or billing towards figuring out the soil issues and build the city for it?
No.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
As part of your construction management of the existing contract of the 233, has the city been billed any portion of Structure Point's time for the soil issue?
Only the portion of being on the site during this remediation construction of the unsuitable soils as part of our construction inspection responsibility to the city and NDOT and Federal Highway for the federally funded project.
So that was your answer, no, correct? Thank you.
I think as noted, I mean, it's fair to say this work has to happen or the project does not get done, which would mean that we would have an indefinitely closed bridge. Is that maybe being a little too extreme?
That's correct, Mayor.
I mean, so I'll simply put, the fact that there's an 80% saving to this now added cost is something that is better than, as I say, 100%. Again, go back in time, you know, if you and I could go in a time machine and get elected maybe 4 or 8 years earlier than we did, maybe we would have rethought the whole project. But being that we came in and inherited the situation, we need to look at it as we've inherited a situation that isn't expensive, but being that we can't get out of it, the next best thing we can do is save money on it.
I will make a motion to approve the amendment for the additional, what, 188,000?
187,500.
So the request has been made for a roll call vote, but we have a motion and we have a second, or is it just a? Just have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion, we have a second. If we could do a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes. All right.
Thank you. Amendment 1. Yes, this amendment.
So that gets us to resolution number 25-1. Mr. Bowditch?
Resolution 2501 is a resolution of the commission. The basis for this resolution is that in the background is the city of Portage is considering and in the process of issuing a bond for public safety equipment purchases. And in the interim, in order for the equipment to be ordered, the issuance is not to exceed $3 million. And the city came before the Redevelopment Commission and inquired if the Redevelopment Commission would pledge or provide a short-term loan to the city for an amount not to exceed $3 million until such time that the obligations are issued. And upon issuance, the city would reimburse from the bond issuance at an estimated time about June or the second quarter of the fiscal year. but no later than December 31st of this year. The tax, and this would be available from the tax increment dollars. Since the fire, or the public safety, police, and fire equipment serves the allocation area, bond council has deemed that the loan is adequate and can be done. However, in order for the equipment to be purchased or at least ordered, the companies need to have some sort of, or some type of obligation or show that there is a commitment of funds. And that's what this resolution is. It's a resolution allowing the expenditure of not to exceed $3 million for an interim loan for the purchase, or the, really for the purchase, but for the equipment to be ordered, to be reimbursed at a time when the obligation is issued, but no later than the December 31st, 2025. Just as a reference, the Redevelopment Commission did receive their tax increment distribution, half of their tax increment distribution in December. For the second payment of taxes, it was about $3.25 million. So the funds are there, and we'll receive them back. It's just a short-term
Dan, would I be going
Entity.
overboard if I described this? And I know we voted at the last city council meeting on the council side to approve the ability to bond, but would it be fair to compare this to co-signing a loan in a way? Or is it simply put that we know that we're committing the funds so that we have it?
I wouldn't say
we can-
it's a cosign.
Well, that's fair,
It's a
yeah.
function of you're showing commitment to the purchase, showing a commitment of funds to the purchase of the equipment so that the equipment can be ordered. The
think
city has taken action to approve the obligation to be issued.
But this allows us to be able to place the order now,
The company
knowing that there's,
it allows us to report to the company that there is a commitment of funds, and they may not even be used, but they need to know that the funds are available. So it'll basically set the funds aside until the obligation.
I see.
So the equipment will be ordered.
Right.
Money won't transfer hands. It'll just be encumbered by redevelopment
Right.
until the city bonds civilly,
In
and
June.
then it releases the encumbrance.
Right, exactly.
I know it's a little bit of it's not even really like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's more like Peter and Paul signing each other a letter, knowing that Paul's gonna,
Or it could be like an uncle, per se, holding funds.
Similar
See,
to
the-
a short-term payday loan that you would receive from your father when you were young, or your mother.
I know that Roy is here. Roy, did you speak to the RDC about this before? I know you've spoken to a lot of meetings, but have you been up here already to describe the situation?
I have not, I believe the other chiefs have. More than willing to come up.
Yeah, you're welcome to come up just to talk about the fire truck, side of it. 'Cause the situation with the fire truck in particular is quite dire. And I don't mean the town.
With the current tower that we have, it's over 25 years old. There is a time window of ordering where it'll take about 2 years for this tower to be replaced. In order to do so, and with all the new EPA changes that are coming out for diesel engines, if this was kicked down the road any farther, we would have to go under a re-engineered motor, a first-generation motor, which of course then brings a lot of problems with first-generation motors. Also with this tower also being 25 years old, really doesn't help with our ISO insurance ratings, and, we're constantly fighting the upkeep of this truck over 25 years old.
I think two things that come to mind for me is one is we can't count on this truck making it to age 30.
Yeah,
That's just
definitely,
not
yeah.
possible. And then to your point with the generation, this allows us to purchase one more of the current generation. Then we can essentially skip over the first generation of the next one, and sometime in the future, when we're ready to rotate again, we'll be on a more secure model one day in the future.
Yes,
I
yes,
might
so
not be
this
there
is
by the
just
time that happens,
like
but still.
kick-starting a rotational purchase plan, so this isn't a surprise for the city when there's engines that we have to buy. There's about 15-year service life, about 7 years frontline, and then it should go into the back as a backup vehicle. We haven't had that currently, and we have an aging fleet that we're trying to battle and maintain the maintenance with it.
For those who watched the last city council meetings, I'm sure you did, Judy, and you saw that, talk about that there. It's such a big deal because I came in and found out just how much there really wasn't a plan to purchase police or fire department vehicles. And one of the things I've learned is that over the years in Portage, what tends to happen at the end of the year is any money left over, it starts to get very political. I don't mean Republican and Democrat, I mean political like lobbying. You start having different departments lobby for what money's left, police, fire. They are always trying to find a way to get equipment. We knew that this wasn't good for the city. So we got police and fire together, and I said, I know just the guy to figure this out. It was Dan Bowditch, who's, right there. And what got crafted is this excellent plan to do a long-term ability to buy, phase out, and then, maintain equipment for police and fire that, there could be hiccups here and there, but I mean, this particular plan could take us all the way to 2060. I definitely don't expect to still be mayor by 2060, but it at least gives us an idea of taking the politics out of it. But the first spot, the kickoff, is being able to set up this particular bonding plan, but which, as noted, we need to be able to at least say we have the funds now to start the order.
And plus, with the amount of lead time it takes to build these trucks out, we need to have a purchase plan, because it can take up to 4 years from order to delivery in order to get that to be servicing the city.
And what's great about that, I say taking the politics out, there's no more lobbying for it. We've got a plan we stick to. It takes care of both of our public safety departments. And I think there's also the piece with this particular truck, although we don't want it to happen, there's a unique feature that if for some reason everything goes to heck in a handbasket, there is a 6-month period for another department anywhere in the country to buy the truck if for some reason we're not able to by then.
Yep. And this purchase plan also builds in the command vehicles and everything else, that it would be a full service plan. We shouldn't be coming asking for other vehicles all the time. Everybody will know what's expected and when we need to purchase.
So I have a question. So when you order it, and then 4 years, possibly 3 to 4 years, it'll be delivered, how do you know that then this is like the most current,
To start, it's not, but we don't want the most current one by then, because as noted, what's going to happen if we don't order this one is the only ones available for order are going to be the first generation of the new types of fire trucks, which just first generation of anything, it comes with problems and bugs. Think like a, beta, versus an alpha. We would rather get the last of the generation we already know. And so that way we have a little bit of time for the fire truck industry to go through that new generation. And then so the next time that this particular truck is ready to be replaced, we'll be getting one years down the road that has those bugs worked out. Basically, we're at the tail end of one technology or tail end of one type of truck, and a new one's about to come. We don't want to be the ones who experience all the bugs of the new generation right off the bat, I think is fair to say.
Yeah. And it's also, it's important to realize that as we wait, if this was to kick down, the can was kicked down a year, let's say, this truck would be about 20 to 30% more expensive. So we're talking $250,000 more in expense to the city.
The other part,
with the new engineering and redesign that goes along with that.
And I think the other part is, even if this were to get kicked down the road and we ended up having to buy the new generation truck, we're still out 3 or 4 years. That's just the nature of buying a fire truck. The odds of one being new and available is so rare, hence why this particular deal is so unique.
Yep.
If for some reason the city were to fail, that another department would be like, oh wow, a new fire truck. But that's very rare. I guess we can keep our eyes out if somebody else already has made this deal and their truck becomes available, but we can't count on that by any means.
And ideally, it sounds like around 2027 this would be delivered, so that would be a great advantage to having this ordered early.
I guess that the reason I asked that question, with technology changing so quickly, for example, I'll use the example, you order all these laptops and computers in the schools, and then a couple of months later, you spend all this money, and then, it's almost obsolete. So that's why I asked that question.
You're completely right in so many ways. The trick is that because fire trucks always take this long to order, starting sooner means that you do, get one, and I will also say that in this case, we have a very unique situation of we don't really want to gamble on the next laptop in this case, because we have reason to think that the next one's going to have more bugs than the current one.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowditch? Oh,
One thing I just wanted to mention is that the mayor had commented that I did assist in the process, which I did, but I do want to give credit to the Calumet College of St. Joseph Masters
Oh, yes, that
of
is
Public
important, yeah.
Administration students. I do teach as an adjunct professor, and the first, one of my financial management and planning classes, they learn how to budget, and this was their project for the year to undertake a capital equipment budget process. And the first year was the fire department and put together everything based upon how do we cycle out equipment over, and identified what that period is. And it came out to be about a 6 to 7 year period, so that every 6 to 7 years, a bond is paid off. You issue another bond, and you replace all that equipment that has gone beyond its life out to 2060. The second class that was last summer worked with the police department, which, and that included the ambulances also. So that provided for all the public safety. And just as a follow-up, I have another class starting on February 25th, and they'll be working with the Parks Department. So it's free work, they get practical application on budgeting, and they enjoy it. So it's Calumet College's way of giving back. If you would like, we can send a letter to President Amy over at Calumet College and the director of the program, Danny McGuire, and thank them for their students' work, because I did tell them this will become a project, potentially a project in this city, and it would be good for them to know their work did come to fruition.
I did my undergrad there at CCSJ, so woo-hoo.
Thank
Go
you so
wave.
much, Dan, for acknowledging the work that they did, and it was pretty neat actually having, not to say, I don't know if it was everybody, but a large number of the students are Chicago police officers, and
Yes.
to have a bunch of Chicago cops coming up initially with a fire department equipment purchasing
Right.
plan has got to be quite an experience.
So to have police officers identify capital equipment for a fire department was a challenge, but they did it. They did it.
I believe in '23, the commission did something similar with the street department when they were purchasing about $1.5 million of garbage trucks or something, that we, I guess, backed the city with a commitment of those funds, and if the city didn't pay for it, we would have to pay for it. Is this bond going to take care of that as well?
The bond takes care of that because we will have the bond ready, by then. But to put it simply, if so many other things were to fail, the added feature of this is the fact that come 2027, when it's due, if something has gone wrong with the RDC, which I don't think will happen, and if something goes wrong with the bond, which I don't believe will happen because the council's already approved the ability to bond there, if the other two spots fail, then you have the fact that when this fire truck comes in, if the money's not there, they have something that's relatively unprecedented, which is that this deal is the company has 6 months to find another buyer. And somewhere in this country, it is safe to assume that there is a fire department somewhere with enough money to buy the truck. But that would be a very unfortunate thing for us if that were to happen.
But the redevelopment commission part of it, as soon as the city bonds were done.
Yes, that's when
Right,
it's,
we're done.
yep, we never actually moved money, I believe, from one to the other.
It's an accounting practice, basically, is what it comes down to.
I don't know if that was the case with the street department deal, but the case
No,
here
there was
is
no
really
bond.
smooth. It's that's a good way to say it as an accounting
It's
practice.
an accounting question.
I'll make a motion to approve the bond.
I second.
I will
Approve the
make-
resolution.
Change my wording to
25-01.
resolution 25-01.
I second that.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have the discussion for trail bridge rehabilitation projects. I don't see anybody from the park here, but we have an update on that.
Not for me, but I just wanted to say to go back one, Mayor, if I may. If we can have a motion just to schedule a special meeting for February 3rd at 5 p.m. on Monday at the similar location for the purpose of Redevelopment Commission 2025 budget presentation, discussion, and consideration.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And then I
Wait,
think I
do
might
we
have,
have the table item
gonna say-
8.6. officially or anything, or just skip it?
That was it. That was it.
Oh,
Yeah. so
Yeah.
what?
With the home TIF, I think, Dan, you already presented
Already
on that. Yep.
reviewed that.
So that gets us to the Trail Bridge Rehabilitation Project.
Although I wasn't here, I believe that this was a line item on your agenda in December. I'm not sure where it went, but it's on the agenda again. And the Park Department asked that I present it since I'm more familiar with the projects. In 2023, the Department of Planning and Community Development solicited inspection services for all of the city-owned bridges. The majority of road bridges are controlled and maintained by Porter County, although we do have one road bridge that is ours. The majority of our concern were the bridges along the rails to trails. Obviously, we have pedestrians and bicyclists that travel these trails. We want to make sure that they don't get injured. So we had a company go through, inspect everything. They gave us an inspection report with line items of what to address and lifespan of everything. And they gave us details on what needs to be done and a cost estimate for the repairs. And at this point, the Park Department is requesting $25,500 to perform repairs on 3 bridges. One is the bridge over Willow Creek, the Prairie Duneland Trail. One is over an unnamed ditch, well, actually the next two are over unnamed ditches. The first one is repair to a damaged fence post, which is $500, the estimate. And the next two are replacement of timber planks. Bridge number 7 is $15,000, and bridge number 2 is estimated at $10,000. So that's where we got the $25,500. As far as what the Park Department's budget is and why it's not in theirs, I can't answer those questions. I was hoping that, even though I knew more about the bridges, that they can come and explain, their budgetary purposes or limitations, but they're not. So I have the inspection report. You're all more than welcome to take a look and see what might be coming down in the future for future requests of money. But at this time, they're wanting to do the 3 repairs.
I'm so sorry. Will you please repeat which bridges? The one over Willow
So,
Creek?
There is the bridge that actually goes over, it's the Prairie Duneland Trail, it's the tunnel that goes underneath Willow Creek. So Willow Creek is over the trail, and that's just to repair a damaged fence post. So the estimated cost there is $500. Now, there are 2 other bridges that go over unnamed ditches. That's what they have listed. I guess if I really looked into it, I could probably give a name to it, but it's not like one of the major ones that anybody would understand where it was. And these are wooden plank bridges that the timber planks that go across
Is there any
need to be replaced.
picture or maybe a map of where the unnamed ditches are? And I'm sorry, a little, like if I,
Of course.
I'm sure that nothing's intentional, but I feel like if I was watching this from home, that almost sounds a little, like, man,
Sketchy.
they're going out of their way to not
It
describe.
sounds
where-
like this is something we should table until the park
I would kind of think
representative
so
can
too,
be-
yeah.
I'll make a motion to table this item.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. With the screens that we have or monitors, is there any way that in the future, when anything is proposed, that we can have pictures?
Oh,
And-
absolutely. And I think that'd be a great idea for this in particular, because, yeah, unnamed ditch just seems like such a bad thing to have in the minutes,
So just scrolling through the inspection log, the one bridge is from Prairie Duneland over to Countryside Park South. So if you're familiar with the Prairie Duneland Trail, it is that bridge there that goes from the trail into basically the parking lot of Countryside South. And the other bridge is at Olson Park. So from the trail, gets you over Lindbergh Ditch, so they weren't aware of the name of it, gets you over Lindbergh Ditch into Olson Park. Of course.
Just to be a little more lighthearted, I mean, I don't know if there are any other unnamed ditches, you know, because as say in Lindbergh Ditch has a name, but it would be nice to know the names of all the ditches in the city. It could be a great, like, contest for kids or.
Aren't
you
they
know,
called waterways now?
Yeah, all the water, oh yeah, we call them all waterways, that's right. Yes, big and small. So we have the Cinder-Dalton agreement. Was that already taken care of when we made Carl the advisor, or is this still a separate
This
vote?
is their contract or agreement for the fiscal year 2025. Quick overview, Sender Dalton Municipal Advisors, or doing business as Sender Dalton Municipal Advisors under Sender and Company Associates. They are the municipal financial advisor and have been for a number of years to the Redevelopment Commission. Basically, the services they provide are continuing disclosures on your obligations or bond issuances, EMA electronic filings for investors to look up the information on debt service, what's outstanding, what's the amortization schedule, as well as annual Department of Local Government Finance commission reporting, which includes your financial report, your annual report, and working with the auditor on your tax increment assessed value capture notices for January 1st as the assessment date, as well as other municipal financially required filings with the SEC or the MSRB. On occasion, they're also used, there's a slight overlap in the work that I do as well as the work that Carl would do as far as economic development analyses. If my analyses are, because I'm not registered as a municipal financial advisor, I can provide economic development analysis. If it leads to a bond, he takes my analysis and puts it into their programming platform and financial platform so that it can be, they can provide an opinion as the municipal financial advisor. The amount of the agreement is not to exceed $20,000, which is reasonable, consistent with prior years, and I would recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 That gets us to 2025 schedule of regular, plenary meetings?
Plenary meetings.
Does that mean like regular or normal
Your
or
regular
something?
meetings of the full commission. That's all that means.
Good to know.
Yeah. So generally, every year, there should be a motion stating that your meetings are on these dates at this time, at this location, so that they can be notified in the paper. It's more, as Radar would say in MASH, formality, sir, but we have to make sure that we go through the process. Right now, you're meeting on the third Thursdays of the month at 4:30 p.m. In the city's Common Council chambers. That's all that's really necessary to know at this time. So for a motion to continue those dates or suggest another date. And then Sonia will put together all the dates and get those out to the paper and everybody else.
Except for November and December, to where we move it up a week.
Right.
I will make a motion to continue our meetings on the third Thursday of the month at 4:30 PM in council chambers, except for November and December, which will be the third Thursday of those months.
If that's the fourth Thursday,
Second.
not the third.
Or the fourth, okay. Gotcha, fourth Thursday.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
For the fourth is what I heard. And this is my year that works, so I mean, it's all, no. All right, so that gets us to the schedule of quarterly study sessions and topics to be considered.
So I did put together a schedule. Last year, we did have the study sessions on various topics from the budget for the subsequent year for 2025. We also had a study session on tax increment financing, how abatements work. We also talked about trails and other topics at these study sessions. We determined last year to have them quarterly to be consistent with that process, and I can have Sonia send these out. My recommendation would be for the fourth Thursday of the month in March, which would be March 27th at 6 p.m. Now, a location I wrote down was, I'm just trying to find locations in the community that are outside of City Hall, potentially the YMCA, Thursday, June 26th at 6 PM. Once again, if we can be at the Portage High School, that was a good venue. Thursday, September 25th at 6 PM, potentially at the Portage Library. And then ending up with Thursday, December 11th at 6 PM, which is the second Thursday. And that would be for the purpose of, once again, preparing for the subsequent year's 2026 budget. The titles or the subjects were for the first study session, reviewing the tax abatements that potentially, review of the tax abatements, ERA assessed valuation deductions for real and personal property in the city, only because of the fact that the city's redevelopment commission does receive an imposed fee annually, which is 15% of the tax savings. I want to say last year, the redevelopment commission received $135,000 in tax abatement fees that are to be used for discretionary purposes in the general fund. So knowing how those abatements roll off, that those funds will eventually dwindle unless new abatements are brought on. The second potential subject is a review of all the allocation areas, so we understand where they're located, when the base assessed valuation, what the base assessed valuations are, as well as when they will sunset or terminate as far as the allocation provisions. As stated earlier, last year, the Redevelopment Commission received about $8,075,000 in tax increment distributions. But as we get closer to those provisions sunsetting, that tax increment revenue is going to dwindle to zero. So we need to understand when that's going to happen because that has a budget implication. Lastly, is the third study session, I would recommend just a discussion of development and economic development projects, update and review for long-term planning, so that an update on projects either by staff or myself, and that would lead into the budgeting in December. So I can put this in paper, we'll get it over to you, but I just wanted to go through some of the subjects and titles, you know.
Those dates you put out are the same as our meetings?
No, they're the week after. They're the week after. It'll be the
They're
fourth
the
Thursday.
same, we're the fourth Thursday?
You're the fourth Thursday, then we could do them the third Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do them the third Thursday, that's fine. Yeah, I'll amend those dates.
Do we need a motion on that?
I don't believe so. No. I mean,
Sounds
we could-
good.
I don't believe so.
And then we have a discussion on the 2025 Community Compass magazine. Love that dramatic noise when when the door makes a noise. I always wonder, is someone trying to get in, or did it open dramatic, Hey, Norma.
Hi. Tom asked me to speak on his behalf. So previously, we all had met to talk about the Community Compass, which is the quarterly magazine that the Chamber puts out. And in the past, the city had agreed to give enough content for 5 pages, and the RDC always paid for that bill. I don't really remember, I don't know, I'd have to ask Sonia to help me remember how much that original cost was for the 5, but they've been doing that for the past several years. So seeing that that was a burden to the RDC budget, we met this year and kind of cut back on pages. We feel it's important to still be a part of the Compass magazine, but we cut back to 2 or 3 pages, which pretty much cuts the cost in half. At this year, for the quarters, we were going to do 2 pages in spring and in the winter, and then 3 pages in the summer and fall, because we figured that's when the park department might have more things to advertise. So at that, we're looking at anywhere from $10,800 to $13,500 for this year, which is, like I said, half of what we normally would pay. And we also looked at, we think that from next year, from 2026 on, that each department that submits an ad or an article should pay for their own, out of their own budget. But since we did not think of that ahead last year for them to budget for this year, 2025, we are asking if the RDC would be willing to pay that fee for us to the chamber for those pages for the quarterly magazines.
And you have my assurance that the 2026 budget will reflect that, because I think that, I mean, I really appreciated how it was said, because, I mean, as the guy who ultimately makes the city budget, it was something where it was kind of just operated on, quite frankly, not thinking of the Community Compass magazine end of it, but I think that if departments want to be able to participate in the magazine, I think that that'll be the best route. You know, one of the better things that we learned too by talking to the chamber is that we don't have to purchase these like all at once. So basically with enough notice, we have the ability to reduce the number of pages, I mean, say in real time, but certainly quarter by quarter.
So I believe we spent $40,000 last year on on this publication, is that correct?
I don't know, do you?
I'm not sure if it was
No.
40 last year, but I think it was about 20 some.
Just 20.
I think it was just 20. And so this proposal gets it to 10,800 on the low end, possibly higher. I think the other thing is that depending on other savings we find in the general fund budget, we could start to apply that to that earlier. So I guess what I would wonder about is there a way to break this down quarter by quarter, you know, rather than asking for the RDC to cover the full
Right,
amount?
yeah.
Could you let us maybe know what the
Yes.
cost would be just for quarter one?
Right, because they would invoice us, depending on if we stick with the current schedule of the 2-3-3-2, or if we go down to 2 for the whole year.
So if we were just doing the request right now, I guess technically we'd have to, well, modify, but if we were just requesting the 2 for this coming quarter, what would be the cost for those 2 right now?
2,700.
And that would give me some time to know if for the next quarter, can we find some money through, you know, other savings, what have you, to apply, and then see what we need to come back to Uncle RDC about, you know? But that is a thought, I mean, you know.
What are some of the examples of the events that were shared in this magazine publication?
Well, I have all of last year's issues, and here's like the winter. We did have 5 pages, and we split those up amongst the departments. Usually the park department has a full page because they have the most events. Let's see.
I think that the park department is the most prominent, along with, we usually do something with
Right.
police and fire, and then
Right,
we've,
police, fire.
I think what's
We
go-
had
oh.
the mayor's moment. We are going to continue that, but make it more like a half-page.
a much smaller greeting kind of thing for me, rather than
Yeah.
it, because the last one was really all about the workout center, which is really just a park, you know, one.
Yeah.
And then one of the interesting things happening this year from a marketing side is that the park department and the marina are doing much more of a co-marketing effort. That's actually even going to be a social media change soon, is it's going to be the Parks and Marina page. So that, because having 2 separate ones would be a very difficult way to have enough content potentially to let everybody know.
Yeah.
Just wondering how that would affect the different departments once they are responsible for
Well, that's why
paying.
we're giving them a notice. They've already been notified that if they want to continue in '26, that it would have to be budgeted for
One of the
for their-
challenges last year was the Redevelopment Commission ordered 5 pages for each one, thinking that every department would have something to fill. We had kind of the opposite problem. There were some departments that didn't necessarily have as much to say within the context of a community outreach magazine. Parks was kind of
Yes.
natural, you know.
And seasonal things, sometimes they're not as busy in the winter as in the summer, so.
I mean this with so much like respect because it's such an important topic, but like the utilities did a really wonderful one about checking to make sure that your sump pump is, you know, not hooked up to the sewer. And that's a very, very accurate, you know, piece of information, but it might not have, in hindsight, been as conducive for a, you know, a chamber magazine. But that's just my opinion. And for the record, I thought it was a good idea until I saw it, and I'm like, maybe there was another way we could have gotten this information out about sump pumps.
Do we have a way of measuring how effective this magazine is in drawing the public out to these businesses, or, like, do you know what I'm asking?
Well,
Is-
keep in mind that that's for the chamber to decide when it comes to how much it draws out the businesses. We're not talking about financing the whole magazine, strictly city advertisements in the magazine. So if we're going to measure like how many people come to the parks because of the magazine, I believe that this magazine goes out to 17,000 people, if that's the right number in Portage Township. So 17,000 people are going to get this in their mailbox, whether they like it or not. It's just one of those things that comes, you know, like a political ad or what have you. We could probably put something in. Be kind of neat to have something that says, mention this ad or mention this, you know, this article in the magazine. And if you do, we'll, I don't know, give you a sticker or give you, you know, some sort of item. That would be a neat way to measure it. And I think that, you know, parks or honestly, the marina would love that. It'd be kind of neat if it's come to the marina and say that you saw this magazine, and we'll give you well, I won't say it here, but there's a lot of cool stuff. We could do the Bonta stickers, the when in doubt, tag the mayor.
Or
That
you
would
could
be-
receive a link to the mayor singing a very seasonal song.
Would work too, yeah. You read the thing earlier today, right, with the answering machine, yeah?
Because if the link were downloaded, you'd have an account and see how many people
Even just
actually
put
downloaded
a
it.
phone number on there that says, call this number to hear Mayor Bonta. Well, I don't know if singing's a good idea, but something. And it'd be interesting to see how many people actually call, you know?
And I think it's important to still have something in this magazine, because it goes to the homes. Not everyone has access to computers, and I know my 91-year-old mother doesn't do anything with a smartphone or a computer or anything, so, but this, she would like, because she could physically, you know, see it and look and read it, so.
I can say it's a wonderful thing that the chamber has put together for businesses, for other resources in the community. I think that being in it as a city is important, but I definitely think that starting as a quarterly, you know, order on our end, you know, as recommended with the two, I think would be the best way to go. And then we can come back to the next quarter if we come in and have a problem not identifying other sources for it. If I actually do this mayor's ball that I've been talking about, maybe that could just be where we pay it from.
So were we looking to approve? Were we
think,
looking to approve?
If we could at least approve, well, my recommendation or hope would be that we approve the 2 pages for quarter one at a cost of, was it about $2,700, Norma? Yeah.
I will make a motion to approve initially the 2 pages for quarter one at about $2,700.
Second.
We have a motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, Sandy, is there more to say?
I just have, no, not on that.
Oh, not about that. I just meant in general, like at this meeting.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm here for other business, just waiting
Yes,
for you
for
to-
other business, yes.
All right. So I believe Sonia passed this along yesterday. I received it early yesterday morning. It is change order number 7 for our Central Avenue project. Thankfully, it is a zero money change order. It is just to clean up in relation to all the other change orders that we've approved. It is changing the completion date from November 15th of 2024, which obviously we didn't make it, to November 15th of 2026. Any questions? Like I said,
Motion to
fairly
approve.
simple. It's just formality coming here.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Let's see.
Thank you.
Any other motions from the board?
Yeah, I saw that there's a big concert planned for Portage Mall.
I saw that
This
too.
summer, and redevelopment hasn't not been approached about use of the land there.
Yeah, that is something.
That would be, there's
So
already tickets for sale and everything.
that is actually something where they came before the Board of Works, and they have approval that is contingent on police and fire approval, which has also not been the case yet. So, yeah, that needs to be addressed.
It's my understanding that they're going to do it in a parking lot. and not the green space.
Well, they want to
So-
use the green space, but if they want to use it, that needs to be brought up. Yep. It's something that police and fire are aware of, and we need to get addressed. Yeah, because, just to put it gently, yeah, there's a whole lot that actually needs to be done for something like that to be able to be approved in the city. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just on the record as saying that people, I don't know about what they can do, what have you, or where they plan on fitting it, but to make use of redevelopment-owned space, there are procedures that got to be followed, and to have an event in the city that impacts things like traffic and stuff like that, there's got to be police and fire approval, and that's in the works on the police and fire side to make sure that stuff doesn't happen unless it's approved.
Okay.
It's your. Like that. All right, so any other motion from the board? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We got two. Can one of those count as a
You
second?
can have it, I'll second it.
All right, we had a motion, a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.